Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Next is an appointment to the River Edge Behavioral Health Community Service Board, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to reappoint Commissioner Burt Bivens to the Board of Directors of the River Edge Behavioral Health Community Service Board and for other purposes.
Economic and Community Development Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the resolution is adopted. Next is an ordinance appropriating funds for improvements at Henry Burns Park, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to appropriate $85,000 of District 7 Blight Bond funds for the Henry Burns Park Master Planning and Entryway Improvement and Enhancement Project and for other purposes.
The Economic and Community Development Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the ordinance signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The ordinance is adopted. Next is item A, which is concerns Phase 2 of the skateboard park in Central City Park, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with California Skate Parks, Inc. for Phase 2 of the Central City Park Skate Park in the amount of $550,000 to be paid from 2017 SPLOST bond proceeds and for other lawful purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Commissioner Tillman?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I'm really pleased to see this skateboarding come to life. I remember years ago when I first started coming down to a city council meeting, I used to talk to Mike Cranford because he was in my district. And he was in a ward at the time, and we used to talk about non-traditional sporting that we needed more of, because usually in our community when we talk about sports, we're talking about baseball, basketball, football, and non-traditional sports were things like skateboarding, people that have remote control cars that kids get, flying kites, or even riding their golf carts. And so I hope as we continue to do things at Central City Park that we'll do more things for those students who we consider non-traditional sporting athletes. That just and that's I think what Hutchinson Career Center was based off of careers, and they didn't have all those sporting events at Hutchinson when it was first created by the school board system. So glad to see this happen, and I hope we continue to get more non-traditional sport events down there. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Tillman. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Next is a resolution concerning some additional kitchen equipment for the Macon Centerplex. I think they're going to actually put it in the auditorium. I'll ask the clerk to read this by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Johnson Lancaster and Associates, Inc. in the amount of $64,025.68 for the purchase and installation of kitchen equipment for the Macon Centerplex to be paid from 2012 SPLOST funds and for other lawful purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Next is a resolution concerning professional services of Jim Hickman at Bowden Golf Course, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission authorizing the mayor to execute a professional services agreement between Macon-Bibb County, Georgia, and James A. Hickman for Bowden Golf Course and for other lawful purposes.
The Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval of the committee amendment that was made during the process. Is there further discussion? Commissioner Bivens, you had the first light, sir.
Yes, sir. We had some discussion on this today, and it just seems to me there are some moving parts that weren't necessarily taken into consideration when this was drawn up. I'd like to just make a motion that we send it back to committee for more discussion.
A motion to refer back to committee is equivalent in my mind to a motion to table. Is there a second to tabling and referring back? Got a motion and a second by Commissioner Jones to table and refer back to committee for further discussion. There is no further discussion on a motion to table. Therefore, all in favor of the motion to table and refer back to committee, let me see your hands so that I can count hands. This is in favor of referring it back. 1, 2, 3. All opposed to the motion to sending it back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The motion fails 3-6. So we're back to the main motion now, which is the resolution with the committee amendment on it. Are there further amendments or further discussion? Chairman Bechtel, I've got your light on second.
Yes, sir, I'd like to make a relatively benign motion amendment to the current resolution that expands the conditions by which this contract is to others who wish to teach at Bowden Golf Course, so that it can be applied equitably to those who wish to teach other than Mr. Hickman.
So this would be the same professional licensing agreement being made available to other golf professionals who want to come and teach lessons at Bowden.
But it doesn't have any of the other conditions that were in the agreement with Mr. Hickman as relates to events and marketing and things like that. This is just for the professional services of teaching. And with that professional services agreement would come a facility fee, paid for the expense of the range balls, as well as schedule all teaching through the Director of Golf, Brandon Tolles.
Is there a second to Commissioner Bechtel's floor amendment? Got a second by Commissioner Schlesinger. Is there further discussion on the floor amendment? Commissioner Lucas?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and fellow commissioners. I support this. Bowden Golf Course is located in the district that I represent, and I am 100% in favor of things that will enhance what we're able to do and offer to citizens at Bowden Golf Course. I think this opens up one more opportunity, and I like the idea of it not being limited to one person, that there may be multiple teachers who are interested in providing classes. And also, I think in a further discussion, we may look at some of the other kinds of classes that are being offered by individuals for our citizens. But I certainly support this, and I encourage everybody to vote in favor of it.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucas. Commissioner Bechtel, did you have additional comments?
And that I failed to mention that Commissioner Lucas is a co-sponsor of this particular amendment.
Oh, good. Okay. Is there further discussion on the Bechtel amendment to make this same professional licensing agreement available to other golf professionals who want to teach at Bowden? Is there further discussion on this amendment? Hearing none, all in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Got two noes, Shepard and Jones, 2 noes, but let me see the hands of the ayes just to be sure. The hands of the ayes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got 6 ayes and 4 noes, 3 noes. I'm sorry. Right. You. I've got you counted as a no, Mayor Pro Tem. So the amendment passes. It's 6-3. Now that brings us back to the committee amendment as amended by the floor amendment. Is there further discussion on the committee amendment as amended? Commissioner Tillman? Anything from you, sir?
No, sir. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I saw your light. All right. Then all in favor of the committee amendment as amended signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. We got two noes? Two noes, so it passes seven to two. All right. No, I said two this time because I think Mayor Pro Tem Bibbins voted for it. So the only two noes were Jones and Shepherd. So seven to two, and the committee amendment as amended is adopted. That brings us to item L, which is a contractor, construction manager at risk contract or agreement, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Chris R. Sheridan and Company for construction manager at risk services related to the renovation work on the Grand Opera House located at 651 Mulberry Street in the amount of $51,250 and for other purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. That brings us to item M, which is a resolution to approve an expanded memorandum of understanding with Operation Hope. And I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission approving and authorizing the mayor to execute a memorandum of understanding with Operation Hope, Inc. to provide financial literacy education and counseling to low and moderate income individuals and families in an amount not to exceed $100,000 to be paid from the Small Business Affairs budget and for other lawful purposes.
The Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Next is a resolution to authorize the construction of a specialty housing for adults with developmental disabilities, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with Georgia Behavioral Health Services for the construction of 2 new affordable rental housing units for adults with developmental disabilities with funding provided by Home Investment Partnerships Program funds in the amount of $758,123 and for other purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Next is a resolution dealing with lease space at Middle Georgia Regional Airport for our new airline that'll be making flights direct from Middle Georgia Regional Airport to Baltimore, Washington International Airport up in the Washington, D.C. metro area. I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission authorizing the mayor to execute a non-signatory airline airport use agreement with Corporate Flight Management, Inc., doing business as Contour Airlines for rights and privileges in using the Middle Georgia Regional Airport to provide flights between said airport and the Baltimore Washington International Thurgood Marshall Airport and for other lawful purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. That brings us to item P, which is an agreement to purchase certain equipment for the solid waste department out of 2017 SPLOST bond proceeds, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Yancey Brothers Company in the amount of $893,871 for 3 items of Caterpillar equipment. Model number 299D2, XHP compact track loader, 745C articulated truck, D5K2LGACAR track type tractor, and accessories for use by the Macon-Bibb County Solid Waste Department to be paid from 2017 SPOS bond proceeds and for other lawful purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Love those pictures. Next is item Q, which is a resolution for professional services agreement with BTBB, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to authorize the mayor to execute a professional services agreement between Macon-Bibb County and BTBB, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $122,000 for architectural services for the renovation of the Grand Opera House to be paid from 2017 SPOS bond proceeds and for other lawful purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Commissioner Tillman?
Is there a due date as far as completion, when this project is going to be complete?
To my knowledge, no. This is one of the first steps in the process to get the architect and engineering diagrams and drawings. So I think they got a long way to go, but this will get them started. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Got one no, Commissioner Bivens. The resolution is adopted 8-1. Next is item R, which is a purchase sale agreement for a lift at the Grand Opera House, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to authorize the mayor to execute a purchase and sale agreement with Minor Florida Ltd. TX Limited Partnership for the purchase of material lift for the Grand Opera House in the amount of $68,325 to be paid from 2017 SPOS bond proceeds and for other lawful purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Got one no, 8-1, Bivens. The resolution is adopted. That brings us now to item S, which is the CDBG Fund Community Development Block Grant budget with the home funds and ESG budgets. And I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission, Georgia, to adopt the Economic and Community Development Department's CDBG Home and ESG proposed budget for fiscal year 2018 budget in the amount of $2,562,807 and for other purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Next is an ordinance to accept some grant money to continue our GCAPS program, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to accept $18,112.48 in contributions and donations from various sponsors for the ACCG GCAPS program and to appropriate said funds for travel and hotel and for other purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the ordinance signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The ordinance is adopted. Next is item U, which is an agreement with the Community Development Department providing for the Emergency Solutions Grant, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to execute an agreement between Macon-Bibb County Government, Economic and Community Development Department, and the Macon-Bibb County Economic Opportunity Council, Inc., providing for an emergency solutions grant in the amount of $127,203 and for other purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Next is item V, which pertains to New Year's Eve ceremonies and that the Cherry Blossom Festival wants to put on. I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to appropriate $10,000 from fund balance for support of the Cherry Blossom Festival's New Year's Eve ball drop to be held in Cherry Plaza and for other purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying, all in favor of the ordinance signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the ordinance is adopted. Finally is item W, which has to do with the match for the local maintenance and improvement grant to resurface and maintain roads here in Macon-Bibb County, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission authorizing the mayor to execute an application with the Georgia Department of Transportation for the purpose of applying for state allocated funds to be used for the paving and maintenance of public roads under the 2018 Local Maintenance and Improvement Grant, authorizing the acceptance of said funds and the required local match of 30% in the estimated amount of $603,079.03 to be paid by 2018 SPLOST funds should said application be approved, authorizing additional county funding in the estimated amount of $94,138.54 to be paid by 2018 SPLOST funds to completed the list of road projects attached hereto as Exhibit A and for other lawful purposes.
The Facilities and Engineering Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. That concludes the old business. There's only one item of new business on the agenda tonight, and that's a resolution to appoint Commissioner Virgil Watkins to the Macon Arts Alliance Board to fill the unexpired term of Commissioner Al Tillman. And I'm going to refer that to the Economic and Community Development Committee for further study and evaluation. That's all of the new business that is ready for us to be referred tonight, but I contemplate additional items coming down from the Attorney's Office during the remainder of the week and would suggest that if you're interested, check the agenda that will come out on Friday that contains all of the new business that will be taken up next Tuesday at committee meetings beginning at 9 o'clock in the morning. I think that'll be August the 8th. Next Tuesday, 9 o'clock a.m. committee meetings. So check the agenda that comes out on Friday for all of the items that will be considered at that time. Next is public comments on non-agenda items, and you handed me a notebook full? Oh, never mind. That's all right. I'll look at them here. First is Beverly Nagel. Beverly wants to talk to us about garbage collection fee changes. Beverly, thank you very much for being here with us. You're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you for allowing me to address the committee.
Certainly, and you're going to have to get real close to the microphone, right, so it'll pick you up.
Okay. Thank you for allowing me to address you. I feel like I'm a little bit at risk for speaking up, but I don't feel like I have an option except to come and speak to you about this as a concerned citizen. I only recently learned about the change in the plan to bill and collect garbage fees and the fact that the fees will also be collected on vacant properties when I accidentally went to ask for a vacancy exception at Public Works a couple of weeks ago. And I was unaware about the change. I'm fairly well informed, had no idea, started calling around to other property owners and they didn't know about it either. And I felt like we really needed to discuss it. I don't ask for an exception on these vacant properties unless they are torn up, and they're torn up because they were vandalized, and the vandalization cost $5,000 to $10,000 to get fixed, and it takes a long time to save up the money in order to do that from your other property rents. So we've had several of them vandalized. the cost is so much to get them repaired. If the tenant vacates, the wiring could be stripped out overnight in a lot of cases. We've actually had an electrician there on a Friday. They leave, they come back on Monday to finish the work, and everything that they've done is gone, so you're double loss on the same property. Now, the only reason why I bring this up is because the only way I can save money is from my other rents on some other properties, and it takes a while to do that. But now with this, we've got to pay all the garbage up front on properties that we've never had to pay garbage before, and we're not using the garbage service. That completely wipes out the savings that I had built up to be able to do the renovations. So we don't use the service. We don't use the service. As a property owner, we know, and we always have operated, that if it's vacant, we have to carry off our own garbage, whether it's the garbage left behind by the tenant, and if there's an eviction or anything, which we hate, but sometimes that happens. Any repairs that we make, all that construction debris we have to carry off. Anytime we do yard service and cut up trees or carry off all the garbage that's left by people on our property that we don't really want to talk about, but we have to carry that stuff off, and we carry it to the dump, and we pay the dump fees for that. I'm not using the garbage. We don't have even the Herbie Kirby's to put the garbage in. So I'm not receiving any service while I have these vacant properties. While it's planned to be listed as a service, the garbage bill is, and it's going to be billed with the taxes and so forth. It has levy ability and everything as if it is a tax. Regardless of whether you're using it, it sure feels like a tax. And it's a very expensive tax increase for the modest properties. So let me give you an example. I have a vacant duplex where the property taxes are like $150 to $200. Well, because it's a duplex, I would get assessed 2 times garbage fee, or $480, soon to go up the following year. It's 2 or 3 times more than the property taxes on it for something I'm not receiving any benefit for, and something I've never had to pay before. I consider it to be really kicking a person when they're down already. We want to renovate the vacant properties, but this is just making it even more difficult to get it done. I would strongly request that you consider putting back in the exception for vacant properties where they truly are vacant and boarded up, and we can prove that there's no water service or anything going to the property. I would also ask that you go back to quarterly billing. I realize that it might be a little bit harder on the county to collect it and so forth, but people's income comes in monthly. Their rental income comes in monthly. They don't have the money up front in October, along with all the property taxes that they've also had to work on saving up money to pay all at the same time. So I think you're going to see a lot more difficulty collecting that money in the fall at one time than you would be if you spread it out. So anyway, I would please consider repealing it or making it better for vacant property owners. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Ms. Nagel. Appreciate it. Next, Arthur Brook wants to talk to us about the garbage feed. Mr. Brook, thank you very much for your patience. You're recognized for 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you very much. Please excuse me for using notes, but these days I don't.
Certainly, but do pull that microphone down, Mr. Brooks, so that it'll pick you up. Yeah, almost have to talk right into it.
I'll give you my DI now. Bibb government chose to outsource garbage collection for our city employees. Performed excellent work. We've had garbage collection tax increases twice before. This one you have right here is draconian. Not to me. I can pay it. And I can pay it in the lump sum that you require. But there are those in this community that cannot do it. If you have ever been to the Macon Water Authority and watched people come in to pay their bills, they don't come in with a checkbook. They don't come in with a wallet. They come in with the money gripped in their hands, and that's the only way they can pay it. You're going to force some of these people beyond what they're able to do. It is wrong. There needs to be another way to pay for it. You cannot produce a utopian society through taxes, just like I can't buy myself to be happy there. This is wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brooke. Appreciate your patience. Appreciate you being here. Glenn Ashmore is here. Mr. Ashmore also wants to talk to us about garbage fees. Mr. Ashmore, thank you for your patience and being here. You're recognized for 5 minutes, sir.
I should forewarn you that the last time I did this was to lead an effort to stop the demolition of the Douglas Theater. So it takes a bit to get my dander up, but when it does get up, it gets up. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a garbage man. And the reason was because back then the garbage man carried this big gunny sack, and he carried the garbage out to the street from the backyard. And when he got through, he would snap that gunny sack and, like a whip, and flash that unspeakable bits of garbage all over the place. Well, here 70 years later, there's some more unspeakable bits that I'm not feeling so enthusiastic about. Back then, garbage was the same as the police service, the fire department, roads, and everything else. It was included in the property taxes. But then the city decided that they needed to raise money, so rather than using those dastardly words, tax increase, they decided to instill a garbage fee. And that worked pretty good when the water board collected, because they had the right information. But when it came into to the public works, it became a nightmare. When they had a exception for vacant properties, but public works pretty well ignored any letter or email that was sent to them. They wouldn't answer the phone as a matter of policy, and they never responded to any emails or otherwise. In order to get something done, you had to go down there almost and get it corrected. On one occasion, I even wrote a letter to you, Mr. Mayor, to finally get their attention. This is kind of what you're doing now. It's kind of the proof of the old thing that if you do a job lousy enough for long enough, somebody will find a way to make a solution to it, and sometimes the solution may be worse than the problem. Now, I've been informed by the Director of Public Works that despite the Section 4, Paragraph C of the ordinance, providing that a premise is destroyed by fire or other casualty or demolished or for some other reason, similar reason no longer constitutes developed property, that statement does not include properties that have been vandalized, stripped of all copper wire, plumbing, often windows and doors, boarded up, and totally uninhabitable. Further down in paragraph C, the reference is made to resuming service after discontinuance based on the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. And that would seem to imply that it doesn't have to be totally destroyed for it to no longer be a developed property. I'd like to know how they would determine the difference between $20,000 worth of fire damage and $20,000 worth of vandalism, other than one is covered by insurance and the other's not. Even more, there's been the argument made that even these vacant properties need garbage service for yard work and construction work. Well, I mowed 3 vacant properties myself last weekend. I collected a 50-gallon bag of empty whiskey bottles and beer cans and unspeakable other things, took them back to my own house and put it in my own garbage. I do that 3 times a year. And somehow, even if I left that bag at the property, $240 is a bit much to collect 3 bags of garbage once a year, 3 times a year. As to the reconstruction, the city will not pick up the plywood I used to board the place up with, much less the sheetrock that the thieves used to tore up to get to the copper. I have to get a dumpster to do it. So that's not a valid excuse. Basically, you need to go back and reconsider this ordinance. And I'm not saying going back to what you were doing, that's for sure, but there's got to be a better solution than what this is. Either at the minimum, I implore you to define what constitutes a developed property and provide some mechanism for appeal. Right now, the Director of Public Works is the sole authority to decide who's going to pay and who's not. That gives him more authority than anybody in the tax commissioner's office. So either rethink the ordinance or be sure to define exactly what you mean by developed property. If you don't, you're basically victimizing people who have already been victimized by people who have no interest in the rights of private property. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ashmore. We appreciate you being here. Appreciate your comments. Next, Dr. Mary Wilder wants to talk to us about recycling area on Riverside Drive, lines in the road and a roundabout. Good evening. Pull that microphone down, please, Dr. Wilder. There you go. That's great, so we can hear you.
I want to start by saying that Mr. Bechtel and Joe Allen were not able to get some weeds cut. I'm now the weed person now. Those weeds were on the where Forest Hill runs into Westland, and it blocked cars and vans. I have pictures that I'm going to share with you. We got it, they're going to do it. And they didn't. They didn't touch that whole area there, which is overgrown with weeds, and it's a mess. It needs to be done. So last Thursday, a friend and I took tools and went out there and cut those weeds down. Now they're going to come back, and I hope I'm not going to have to go out there again and cut those weeds. But they're gone. It was a very dangerous spot there, and we had to get it down. So they're gone. All right.
No, we typically don't have back and forth. I'm sure she'd be glad to talk to you after the meeting. We usually don't get into back and forth during this time.
Joe did his job. He did his job, but nothing happened. That's right, you did. Then I want to talk about the lines. We have a lot of old people in this town. A lot of them still drive. They need the lines in the road, both the white sidelines, and I hear this a lot around town, and yellow lines. And if you would, go sometime at night and see if you see the yellow line, if you see those white lines. They're faded now many times. They're beautifully bright on newly paved roads. But Bowman, from Riverside to Wesleyan, there are no lines whatsoever. There are no lines on Bowman. Across the street, it's just been paved, lovely lines over there. We really need to pay some attention to that, because older people want to go places at night, but many of them have just given up driving. We are losing our sight, and we need some help with on that. Now, I want to talk about the recycling. This can be seen from the road. Look at that. Heavens and His grace. And of course, our personnel have to look at that every day. And here is a new paper dumpster. It's very nice, very nice, very nice. But right at the end of it, you've got this going. If you go and clean that up, including getting the grime off the ground there, cut back the foliage. The foliage is coming over you can see the garbage cans there. And some garbage cans were added, by the way. And so you could put a small dumpster there. That needs to be done. This is going to get worse if the one on Forsyth is closed when you close that firehouse. If that one's closed, you're going to have a lot more of this down there on Riverside. So I urge you to please think about getting something done there. And you can see it from the road. I don't think you want our visitors seeing that from the road. Now, the final thing is, please, there's going to be a new mall beyond Riverview. There's going to be Bass up Bowman is exploding with lofts. Everybody loves lofts, so we're lofting all over town. There are new businesses up there. And now, with I-75, you're afraid to get on it that you might back up to Forsyth or something. You're going to have a lot more people on the road. Well, right now, Mr. Bechtel asked the engineer to go out to Bowman and Wesleyan. He did. He counted the cars, lots and lots of cars. He agreed, and Mr. Bechtel sent me the information on it. He agreed that there were a lot of cars on going this way and that. On drive times, it blocks up on Wesleyan 1 to 2 blocks. From 4 to 6 o'clock, you're looking at that kind of thing. So it's going to only get worse. Now, I had thought, when I thought about it with Mr. Bechtel, a light. I don't think so. That would back it up even more. We need a roundabout. That is the natural thing to have there. And I think what I'm talking to you, that's a four-way stop for those of you who haven't been there. It's a four-way stop. That's why it's backed up so much. So I just wish that you take care, dumpster for this, check the lines in the roads so old people like me with no eyesight at night can drive. I'd appreciate it, and so would a lot of the others. They talk to me all the time about that, and they've just quit driving for fear of getting on a road with no lines. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wilder. We appreciate your comments and appreciate you being here. I think I saw Romney Tucker here earlier, but I think I saw him leave. Romney, are you still here anywhere? Romney Tucker? I assume he had to leave, so we'll move on to Wade Horton. Wade Horton wants to talk to us about the Transit Authority. Mr. Horton? Welcome, and you'll recognize for 5 minutes, sir.
Okay. Thank y'all for allowing us to come to speak. The comments that I am about to make in no way are reflected on the interim CEO of the Transit, and I'm not sure what his last name is, but I know his first name is Dave. And the comments I made in the past does not reflect him. About a month ago, I think the first Tuesday in June, I spoke to you guys about some issues at Transit Authority, and I suggested that you guys look into maybe taking the authority under the city and appointing a department head to head it. One reason I said that is because some of the initiatives that the city, mayor and council or commissions would be taken more seriously and probably be implemented better. One reason I say that too is because of even the due process of employees and due process of citizens. I noticed at this location at the commissioners' meeting, I have witnessed firemen and police officers, public service workers come down to voice their complaints and dissatisfactions with certain things that that they are facing in their job capacities. And from what I can tell, it was well received and people felt comfortable enough to do that. Now, I've noticed since I've been attending meetings at the Transit Authority, I haven't seen any workers come to voice any complaints whatsoever. I've seen some people who ride the service or use the service to come down, but even that is not, with that, it's not a lot of people that does that. This last meeting that I attended, and this is an example of the type of due process I am talking about, they didn't have enough people to actually start the meeting on time, and a couple of people came a little later and they got started. And I noticed that one person that was on the board, it was already reported they was going to be running late. Actually, it was Mr. Tompkins. He had to call in and let the chairman know that he was outside. Someone had to go downstairs to unlock the door. Now, I noticed that when we come here to these meetings, these doors are open. You can come in at any time and leave at any time. That shows that we're welcome down there, especially when you can't get in the doors if you don't come in at a certain time. You know, so when I saw that you guys had considered taking the transit under your authority, I was very happy about that, and I want to give you my support on it, and I hope that you continue to seriously discuss taking it under your authority. I know it's not going to be perfect under your authority, but I believe wholeheartedly that it will be better under your authority. There are so many things that are going on right now. One thing I want to share too is Chairman Ross and I have spoken several times at the meeting down there, and I suggested that they restore services back to the way they were prior to them cutting it. And you know, at the last meeting, he stated he had, I don't know if he actually attended, but he talked to several people in comparable sizes of authorities, Augusta, I think Athens, Albany, Savannah, Columbus, and they had various hours of operation, and he used that. Well, I'm not going to say what he used it for, because beyond which I'm not really sure, but I know he finally closed out and said that they were going to be proactive and they were going to possibly cut back on some services in neighborhoods that are deemed unsafe. And my question to that is, where are the statistics that give you that ability to deem it unsafe? I mean, how many transit buses have been attacked, seriously attacked? I'm not talking about kids throwing rocks or eggs. I'm talking about attacked where people's lives were in danger. And I think that, you know, before you make a decision like that, you should have some data to back it up. You shouldn't just throw it out there and say, we're going to choose neighborhoods. Which neighborhoods are you going to choose? Now, that was never discussed. But the fact that you are saying this and you're going to be proactive, I would have rather you been proactive using the funding that you got the way it was intended to be used, so that we wouldn't be in the financial situation we are in at this time. That's being proactive. But denying people in various neighborhoods transportation is not proactive, and I would encourage you guys to continue discussing and debating the alternative of taking this over. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horton. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate your comments. Finally, we have Duncan Soror. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Duncan Soror, who wants to talk to us about climate change. and something else, but I can't quite figure out what it is. MNCAA.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners. First and foremost, I'd like to say in no way am I a climate expert or scientist, so I want to make that disclaimer very clear. All right. I believe it stands for Mayor's National Climate Agreement Agency. I saw it in the news about in June, and I saw that you would sign on to that. And so, you know, I'm a resident of Macon, you know, so this is an issue that it's of great concern to me, as I feel it, as it is for many others, and I think it should be of great concern to everyone. So some things specific to Macon. I know last year Macon had the longest drought on record. At the end of the year, from October to November, it was about 52 days straight. We also, for the cherry blossom, we had a very unusually late cherry blossom bloom. Like, I believe even after Cherry Blossom Festival had ended, most of the cherry blossoms hadn't bloomed. And also within Georgia, about 80% of peaches were lost last year. I believe, to my understanding, both the cherry blossoms and the peaches, that had to do with very few chills, cool nights or chill nights. But those are just some specific examples. And I'm not here to come, I don't have a specific plan. I'm not here to offer any specific solutions. I'm just here to emphasize, as a local citizen, as a local resident, that I think it's something that should be concerned of all of us, and especially after the U.S. pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord, and there was a lot of the mayors convened, a lot of mayors, so a lot of states, especially obviously such as California, but it's several states and several cities, several mayors and several governors across the country, across the U.S. And to my understanding, Mayor Reichart, he has joined that. I'm not exactly sure what capacity this Macon-Bibb is on board of that, but I believe that you have addressed that as well. So yeah, I just wanted to put that in the air, because perhaps next time it can come back with something more tangible, something more substantive. But I just wanted to say that, sir. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sorrell. I appreciate it. That brings us to the end of our agenda, and no others have signed up to speak to us tonight. Are there any points of personal privilege? Don't see any. So is there a motion to adjourn? And without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, yeah, thank you. My point of personal privilege, National Night Out. There are several neighborhoods around town that are having National Night Out tonight, always on the first Tuesday in August. And this is the 34th annual National Night Out, and the Sheriff's Office and the Fire Department are out in certain neighborhoods and neighborhood watch groups. So if you know of a neighborhood watch organization in your area, or of a National Night Out event in your area, hope you'll stop by and attend and support it. Thank you all very much for being here.